The automated email alert wasn't from my commanding officer in Germany. It had no subject line about mission updates or deployment schedules. It was from Zillow. The subject simply read, "An update on your property at 114 Meadowlark Lane." Strange. I hadn't listed it. I clicked the link, and my world tilted on its axis. My plot of land, the one I bought with my re-enlistment bonus, was now home to a half-finished steel skeleton reaching for the sky. My future home was gone, replaced by a 5G cell tower. My heart didn't pound. It went cold. This wasn't just dirt and grass. This was a place Chloe, my fiancée, and I had spent hours on video calls designing our future. We had blueprints saved in a shared drive, filled with notes about a wraparound porch and a small workshop for me. It was our anchor, the promise of a normal life after my service was over. And I had just discovered its destruction through a property value algorithm, a cold, indifferent notification on a screen thousands of miles from home. I immediately tried calling the number listed for the Evergreen Vistas Homeowners Association. A recorded voice answered. This number is no longer in service. It took me a full day of digging through county records just to find a working email address for the HOA president, a man named Arthur Vance. He agreed to a video call. He appeared on my screen from a polished home office, a picture of retired wealth and smug satisfaction. He didn't apologize. He launched into a smooth, corporate-speak explanation about a community infrastructure enhancement bylaw passed 6 months ago. The tower, he explained, was a massive win for Evergreen Vistas, promising unparalleled internet speeds and a significant boost to property values. "We're building the neighborhood of the future, Sergeant," he said, his tone dripping with a condescension that felt like acid. "Sometimes progress requires a few small sacrifices for the greater good. You understand sacrifice, don't you?" I kept my voice level, the way they train you to when everything inside you wants to scream. "I'm on active duty, Mr. Vance. I was never notified of any vote or bylaw change. That land is my private property." He gave a theatrical sigh, a performance of strained patience for the simple-minded soldier on his screen. "We followed protocol to the letter," he said, sharing his screen to show a scanned copy of a certified mail receipt. It was addressed to me at 114 Meadowlark Lane, an empty field. We sent the notifications. We held the vote. We can't halt progress for one absentee owner. It's unfortunate, but the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. As a final insult, he offered me a different lot at the far end of the subdivision, a patch of soggy marshland bordering a drainage ditch. He ended the call with a chillingly cheerful, "Enjoy the enhanced connectivity when you get back." He had just declared war, and he didn't even know it. My training as a cyber systems operator kicked in. Rage is inefficient. Emotion is a liability. I didn't get angry. I got methodical. The small desk in my barracks room became my war room. My laptop was my new weapon system. I wasn't just a wronged landowner anymore. I was an intelligence analyst, and Arthur Vance was my target. I used my off-duty hours to peel back the layers of Evergreen Vistas. I pulled every public record I could find. Meeting minutes going back 5 years, financial statements, zoning applications filed with the county. I used my access to military-grade satellite imagery archives to track the construction timeline of the tower, cross-referencing it with the HOA meeting dates. It was all there, a mountain of data, waiting for the right query. Then I found the first thread. The land wasn't sold to the telecom giant directly. It was sold for a pittance, $1, according to deed transfer to a newly formed LLC. That LLC then leased the land to the telecom company for a fortune. The LLC was named Summit Horizon Holdings. It took me less than an hour of digging through state business filings to trace its registration back to another company, Vance Consulting, owned and operated by none other than Arthur Vance's wife. He hadn't just sold my land. He had created a shell company to personally profit from the deal, laundering the kickback from the telecom company as a lease acquisition fee. This was no longer an HOA dispute. This was wire fraud. But financial crimes were slow to prosecute. I needed something faster, something with undeniable authority. A memory surfaced from a mandatory security briefing about domestic infrastructure. Our base, located just 30 miles from Evergreen Vistas, used a specific set of low-frequency radio bands as a backup for encrypted air traffic control communications. It was a fail-safe, a last resort in case primary systems went down during an emergency or a hostile cyber attack. Civilian infrastructure wasn't supposed to operate anywhere near those frequencies. It was a protected spectrum, a silent, invisible lifeline for every pilot in the region. On a hunch, I requested remote access to a spectrum analyzer at the base. It was a long shot, but my security clearance was high enough. I aimed it directly at my old property, a digital finger pointing across the miles. The screen lit up like a Christmas tree. The test signals from a new 5G tower were bleeding all over the spectrum, creating a massive spike of interference right on top of our emergency channel. I spent the next 5 hours writing. I didn't write it as Leo Ramirez, the deployed airman whose future was stolen. I wrote it as Staff Sergeant Ramirez, Cyber Systems Operator, 86 Communications Squadron. The title was precise: Report on Potential National Security Threat Posed by Unregulated Civilian Telecommunications Infrastructure. In it, I detailed the frequency bleed, included the data logs and spectral analysis charts, and outlined a worst-case scenario where a comms failure during an emergency landing could be traced back to this single, illegally placed tower. I attached the satellite photos showing construction timeline and the fraudulent shell company records as appendices to establish a clear pattern of recklessness and illegal conduct. I encrypted the file and sent it directly to Colonel Hayes, my wing's commanding officer. His reply came in under 10 minutes. SSGT Ramirez, my office, 0800 tomorrow. My meeting with Colonel Hayes was short and intense. He was a pilot by trade, a man who understood that a clear comms channel was the only thing separating a routine flight from a disaster. He read my report, his expression hardening with every page. He didn't see a property dispute. He saw a threat to his operational readiness. He built this thing right on top of our emergency fallback channel. The colonel asked, his voice a low growl. Yes, sir. The signal bleed is significant. In a jamming scenario, it could render the channel unusable. He stared at the report for a long moment, then looked at me. This isn't just about your land anymore, Sergeant. He made one phone call, not to a lawyer, but to the Department of Defense's Infrastructure Security Division, the people whose entire job is to protect military assets from civilian encroachment. They were enthusiastic. Within 48 hours, they had launched their own investigation. They uncovered something I had missed. The telecom company had filed falsified documents with the FAA, understating the tower's final height by 50 feet to avoid a more stringent and lengthy approval process that would have flagged its proximity to the base. The tower wasn't just a communications threat. It was a physical flight hazard. The plan they formulated was brilliant in its simplicity. It wasn't an invasion. It was an audit, a joint interagency infrastructure security audit. The DoD had the absolute federal authority to inspect and, if necessary, neutralize any civilian structure posing a clear and present danger to national security. There would be no Humvees, no rifles. The team would consist of FCC engineers, FAA inspectors, and DoD forensic accountants. They codenamed it Operation Silent Strike. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place when my new orders came through. I was granted a temporary duty assignment to the United States to act as a technical liaison for the audit team. I was flying home. Evergreen Vistas was exactly as I remembered from the pictures, a neighborhood of perfectly manicured lawns and identical houses, except for the steel monstrosity looming over the landscape. 3 black government SUVs rolled silently to a stop in front of the HOA clubhouse. There were no sirens, no flashing lights. A handful of men and women in professional navy blue polo shirts with a small DoD emblem stepped out, carrying briefcases and equipment cases. They looked like a corporate consulting team. Arthur Vance met them on the clubhouse porch, his smile wide and welcoming, clearly expecting to charm his way through a minor zoning inquiry. The lead investigator, a stern-faced woman named Director Evans, didn't shake his hand. She simply handed him a thick envelope. Mr. Vance, she said, her voice devoid of warmth. This is a federal warrant authorizing a full security audit of the telecommunications structure located on this property. His smile faltered as he scanned the first page, his eyes catching phrases like National Security Review, FAA airspace compliance, and mandatory cessation of operations. Just then, I stepped out of the last SUV, dressed in my uniform. Our eyes met across the perfectly manicured lawn. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. I didn't smile. I just gave him a slow, deliberate nod. His face went white. Director, Evans looked from the warrant to the tower. We're going to need you to power this structure down, she announced to the silent neighborhood. Immediately, the response was immediate. Telecom engineers, under threat of federal obstruction charges, complied. With a few keystrokes from a laptop in their truck, the tower went dark. The promised gigabit future of Evergreen Vistas was dead before it even began. My former colleagues, now the DoD audit team, swarmed the site. Spectrum analyzers were set up, confirming the interference within minutes. An engineering drone was launched, its lasers meticulously mapping the tower's exact height and position, confirming the FAA violation. Residents started to creep out of their houses, drawn by the silent, official activity. Their whispers turned from curiosity to concern. This wasn't a simple inspection. While the tech team worked, a second team of forensic accountants walked into the HOA clubhouse. They didn't ask for permission. They served a subpoena for every financial record, every hard drive, every file cabinet related to Summit Horizon Holdings and Vance Consulting. "You can't do this." Arthur sputtered, his face turning a blotchy red. "This is private HOA property. You have no jurisdiction here." "Our jurisdiction," Director Evans replied without looking at him, "is national security. That warrant gives us access to anything and everything related to this tower." They began boxing up his entire financial life right in front of him. His empire paperwork was being dismantled by people who understood loopholes better than he ever could. By noon, a local news helicopter was circling overhead. Someone was live streaming. The story was out. Hashtag Vancegate was born. The evidence was a landslide. Within 24 hours, the DoD had an airtight case. The signal interference was a direct violation of federal law. The FAA fraud was a felony. The financial trail was a textbook case of wire fraud and embezzlement. The telecom company, seeing federal prison in its future, panicked. Their legal team immediately voided their lease agreement with the HOA, citing fraudulent inducement, and filed a massive lawsuit against them to recoup their construction costs and damages. Arthur Vance was no longer a visionary community leader. He was a liability that was about to bankrupt the entire neighborhood. With federal indictments pending and a ruinous civil suit from the telecom giant, the HOA collapsed. Their lawyers called mine. They offered a deal. They would immediately sign the deed to 114 Meadowlark Lane back over to me, free and clear, and pay a cash settlement for damages and emotional distress. All they wanted in return was for me to drop my own planned civil suit. I looked at my lawyer. I looked at the papers. I had won, but it wasn't enough. "I accept the land," I told my lawyer over the phone, "but tell them the lawsuit stays on the table. It gets dropped only when Arthur Vance uses his own money to pay back every last cent he stole from the community fund for his little shell company." Weeks later, I stood on my land again. This time, I was with Chloe. The only sound was a groan of metal as a crane crew, hired by the telecom company, began dismantling the steel tower piece by piece. Arthur Vance and 2 of his board members had been indicted on federal charges. The HOA was formally dissolved by a court order, its assets liquidated to pay its debts. The neighborhood was free. A man I'd never met, one of my new neighbors, walked over and handed me a cold beer. "Saw the news," he said with a small smile. That was one hell of a welcome home party. I took a sip. For the first time since I got that Zillow email, the tension in my shoulders eased. Chloe unrolled the blueprints for our house, and we laid them out on the hood of my car. They looked different now. Not like a dream, but like a plan. The war was over. I hadn't raised my voice, fired a shot, or even stepped on anyone's lawn without permission. I just found the right frequency and broadcast the truth. They tried to build their future on my land. So I came back and repossessed theirs 1 megahertz at a time.